Hello and welcome. My name is Sandhya. I'm going to take you through some basic first aid awareness videos on behalf of Center for Advanced Simulation at Gulf Medical University under the banner Tumbe Group. Our center is one of the first Northern Emirates center to be accredited by the American Heart Association to provide life support courses like BLS, ACLS, PALS, which are mainly intended for the healthcare professionals, and first aid, which is for the lay rescuers like people who are working in the companies and in different industrial sectors. Gulf Medical University is also a center for humanitarian education in collaboration with the International Federation of Red Crescent and Red Cross Associations, and we are a provider of IFRC approved first aid courses in the region. My background is based primarily as a nurse. I have been a first aid instructor for 10 years. I have a lot of experience dealing with medical emergencies, of course, when I worked as a nurse, and teaching first aid for a wide variety of employees and people ranging from construction sector, offshore, security and safety, sports facilities, schools, hotels, cabin crews and pilots to pretty much every sector you can imagine. During my tenure, I taught first aid from different international organizations as First International UK, National Safety Council, and now the American Heart Association. During this session, you will gain knowledge and skills that may help save a life. But the most important thing at the time of emergency is to be able to recognize that something is wrong and phone your local emergency response number for help, which is 999 across UAE. So the sort of subjects we will be covering is heart attack or chest pain, stroke, choking, diabetic emergencies, major bleeding, and heat-related problems. I hope you will enjoy them. If you will watch the whole video and complete the course requirement, you will be able to download a course completion certificate from Gulf Medical University. So what is first aid? First aid is the immediate care that you give a person with an illness or injury before the rescuers with more advanced training arrive and take over. If you are going to help, first and foremost, you have to make sure that you are not in any danger and there is no further danger to the casualty as well. Now let's discuss about the goals of first aid. The goals of first aid are preserve life. We don't want the person to die. We have to try our level best to preserve the life of the person. The second one, alleviate any suffering, which include comforting them, applying an ice pack or cold water if they have burns. The third one, prevent the condition from getting any worse. Perhaps you can do this by applying direct pressure to an open wound, which may reduce the bleeding and which can prevent the patient going into a state of shock. The last one is to promote recovery. It may be by letting them drink juice if they have low blood sugar and get them to the hospital as quickly as possible. We have to understand how we can find the problem. Before you give first aid, assess the ill or injured to find out what the problem is. Sometimes the problem is apparent and you can ask the person and can begin to give first aid. Other times the problem may not be easily seen and you will have to follow the below steps before providing first aid. Now I'm going to demonstrate the practical application of what you have watched. Finding the problem. If your casualty looks unresponsive, the first and foremost thing, you have to make sure the scene looks safe. There is no danger to you and there is no further danger to the casualty as well. Since the casualty looks unresponsive, you have to again check the response level of the person by tapping both shoulders or gently shaking at the shoulders and calling the person. Hey, sir, can you hear me? Are you okay? He is unresponsive. You have to shout to get help. Help! Is there anyone to help? Now you have to check for the other important sign of life, which is the breathing. You have to scan the chest for minimum 5 seconds and maximum 10 seconds. I can see that he is breathing fine. Now I have to look for what might have happened to the person. For that, I can check the person from the head till up to the toe. If you have gloves, you have to put on your gloves, or you have some plastic cover or something, you can protect your hands by putting on the gloves or plastic cover so that you will not get touched with the blood and other body fluids. I have to put on my gloves. Now I have to start checking the person from the head. I can touch all sides of the head, look at my gloved hand for blood or any body fluid. I can look at the face for any swelling, any color change, the ears for any leakage of white color clear fluid or blood. The neck, I can look at the neck for any color change. I can feel both shoulders, both extremities, the chest, abdomen for any hardness. I can slip my hands behind, look at my gloved hand for blood. No, I have to check the hip, both the legs, till up to the foot. I'm not finding any sign of injury. I have to check the pockets for any medications or any sharp things, because I'm going to keep the person in the recovery position since the person is unresponsive until the help arrives. If you have someone, have the person call the emergency, ask the person to bring the first aid box and AED. You please call emergency, get me the first aid box and AED quickly. I'm going to keep him in the recovery position. He is unresponsive and breathing fine. Now I'm going to keep the person in the recovery position, because if the person is unresponsive, there is high chance that the tongue can fall back and it can obstruct the airway, since all the muscles will go relaxed if the person is unresponsive. In order to relieve the tongue blockage, the recommended position is the recovery position. If you keep the person in the recovery position, the muscle will be stretched. It will keep the tongue in position. It will not fall behind and it will not block the airway. For that, what I have to do? I have to keep the arm which is nearest to me at right angle. The farthest arm I can keep across the chest towards the face. The palm against the face. Now I'm going to keep the leg bent, the farthest leg, and I'm going to move the person towards my side. For that, I can hold the shoulders and the hip and turn the person towards my side. Support, turn the person toward my side and make sure the person is resting on his knees and on his arm, and his head is turned behind. And the important thing, you have to make sure the person is breathing fine. Now I have to stay with the person until the ambulance people arrives. Now let's go on and discuss about most widely happening medical emergency situation, which is heart attack. What is heart attack? Heart attack happens when the artery of the heart completely blocks or maybe partially blocked. So when the artery gets blocked, the area of the muscle which is nourished by this artery begin to die. This is a life-threatening situation. The longer the person with heart attack goes without treatment, the greater the possibility of the damage to the heart muscle. What signs and symptoms you would notice? The signs and symptoms include chest discomfort. Most heart attack involves discomfort in the center of the chest that lasts more than a few minutes or that goes away and comes back. It can feel like uncomfortable pressure, squeezing, or fullness or pain. Radiating pain. So it can happen like discomfort in the other areas of the body, pain or pressure in one or both arms, back, neck, jaw, shoulder, or stomach. Other signs include shortness of breath, breaking out in cold sweat, nausea, or lightheadedness. People often don't admit. Usually you will find denial. This is also a sign of heart attack. People often say the following, like, I don't want to bother the doctor, or I don't want to scare my wife or husband. It will be okay, it may be indigestion. So they may often use these phrases and they would deny it. So if you are seeing that someone is denying and the person is getting other signs and symptoms of heart attack, don't hesitate to activate the emergency response system. No two heart attacks are the same. They can look quite different for each individual, and they may not experience all the signs and symptoms. Then don't hesitate to phone emergency if you suspect someone is having a heart attack, even if the person doesn't want to admit the discomfort. Now let's watch what actions we can take in case if you are encountering the casualties experiencing all the signs and symptoms. Let's take a look at the video.
If you have someone with a chest pain, the actions you need to consider. You can make sure the person rests and stays calm. The preferred position if you suspect heart attack is the W position or the sitting position. So you can make sure the legs bend and he is resting on the wall, or you can hold the person and make the person rest and stays calm. Now you can make sure there is no tight clothing and remove the clothing if required, or like if the person feels cold, you can cover up the person. It all depends upon how he feels. And now you have to phone for help or have someone call the emergency medical service system. You please call emergency, get me the first aid box and AED quickly. He is having a chest pain. Now you have to ask the person if the person has any tablet or the doctor prescribed him any tablet. The recommended tablet for heart attack or the chest pain is aspirin. You can give the strong dose of aspirin, which is 300 milligram, or low doses of aspirin, which is 160 milligram, 2 tablets of low doses of aspirin or 1 tablet of strong aspirin. The aspirin will make sure there is no further beginning in the size of the clot. You can have the person chew the tablet, which will make the tablet absorb fast. If you are not pretty sure whether the person is allergic to aspirin or any other contraindications for aspirin, which includes severe bleeding or ulcers, or the person is allergic to aspirin. So if you are not pretty sure whether the person is having any of these problems, and then do not consider giving aspirin. And now you have to stay with a person, and if the person becomes unresponsive, stops breathing, you have to start CPR.
Now let's go on and discuss about the other medical emergency for which you may need to use your first aid skills, that is stroke. Stroke occurs when blood stops flowing to the part of the brain. This can happen if a blood vessel in the brain is blocked or leaks. Warning signs of stroke. You can understand the warning signs, or you can easily recognize the warning signs by using a metaphor, that is, be fast. So be fast. Each letter indicates one of the sign of stroke which you will commonly find in the casualty. So B stands for imbalancing. You will find the person is losing balance. He cannot really walk, or he may fall down. So imbalance you will find. So the second one, E stands for problem in the vision. It may be problem in the vision one of the eyes, or maybe both sides you will find. F stands for face drooping. You may find the one side of the face droop, or the person might feel it numb, or maybe both sides. If you are not pretty sure whether there is drooping, you can ask the person to smile, and then you will find one side is drooping down. Okay, and then arm weakness. Arm weakness you can observe. You can ask the person to keep both arms in front of the person. So lift both arms. So if the person is unable to lift one side, or after lifting, if one side is falling down, or maybe both sides, that's other sign of stroke, arm weakness. S stands for speech difficulty. You may ask the person to repeat a phrase, like an old dog cannot be taught new tricks. If you are not comfortable using this phrase, ask some question to the person. Maybe the person is having difficulty to comprehend what you are saying about, or maybe the person is not able to repeat what you are saying. There is a speech problem. The last T stands for you can consider T for two different things. The first one you have to consider, the letter T, is the time of onset of the signs and symptoms. It is very, very important in the management of the patient. Usually when you are activating the local emergency response system, when the paramedics comes over, they ask you about the time. What time did you notice the person got the signs and symptoms? So immediately you have to take note of the time, and then you have to consider the T for time to activate your local emergency response system, which is 999 across UAE. What actions you can take in case of stroke? You have to phone or have someone else to phone local emergency response number and get the first aid kit and AED. Note the time when the stroke signs and symptoms first appeared. Remain with the person until someone with more advanced training arrives and take over. If the person becomes unresponsive and is not breathing normally or only gasping, you have to initiate CPR. Now let's discuss about another commonly happening situation, which is very prevalent across this region, that is diabetes. Diabetic emergencies. Diabetes is a disease that affects the level of sugar in the blood. Too much or too little sugar can cause problems. So usually people who are diabetic, they may take insulin shots or they may use the medications. If they are taking the medication or insulin, there are high chances that the sugar can either go high or low. So if in case the sugar drops, that can immediately take the person to a life-threatening situation, which is coma. The low sugar levels are more dangerous when compared to the high sugar level. So any diabetic emergency should be primarily managed as low sugar, and if not better after 10 minutes, you have to phone or have someone else to phone emergency. When a person with diabetes has low blood sugar, the person may become irritable or confused, hungry or weak, very sleepy, sweaty. In some cases, the person might even get a seizure. What actions you can take in case if you are encountering a situation where the person is demonstrating or showing all these signs and symptoms? He or she is very irritable, confused, hungry or weak, very sleepy, and suddenly started sweating, and you know that the person is diabetic. First thing, you have to phone or have someone else to call local emergency response system if the person is not able to swallow, like the person is falling unconscious or may not be able to swallow anything, very confused and disoriented. You have to phone emergency immediately. Or if the person is able to sit up and swallow, then you have to ask the person to eat or drink something with sugar that can rapidly restore the blood glucose levels, which include glucose tablets, soft chewy candies, juice, dates, and these kind of things. Then have the person sit quietly or lie down. If the person does not improve within 10 minutes, phone or have someone phone emergency response system. The other situation, which is a life-threatening, which can happen immediately or suddenly, so that is choking in an adult. Choking is when the food or other object gets stuck in the airway in the throat. The object can block the airway or stop air from getting to the lungs. In adults, the choking is often caused by food. In children, choking can be caused by food or other objects like toys, coins, or candies. You have to differentiate, you have to be able to differentiate between mild and severe airway blockage. The block in the airway that causes choking can be either mild or severe. A person with mild block can talk and make sound or can cough loudly. What you have to do in that situation, if the person got something in the throat and then he is able to cough or talk to you, and then you can stand by the person, encourage the person to cough. If you are worried about the person's breathing, then you can phone 999. The person with a severe airway blockage cannot breathe, cannot talk, or cannot make sounds. He may have a silent cough, or make the choking sign like by holding the neck with one or both hands. When this happens, you have to act quickly. When an adult or child has a severe airway blockage, you have to start abdominal thrust, so which you will perform slightly above the navel. These thrusts are called abdominal thrust. Each thrust pushes air from the lungs like a cough does. Since the person is not able to cough, you are pushing at the abdomen and you are exerting a pressure. You are increasing the intrathoracic pressure. This can help move or remove an object that is blocking the airway. Any person who receives abdominal thrust should see a healthcare provider as early as possible, because there is high chances that you can injure internal organs and there may be internal bleeding. What actions you can take in a severe airway blockage of an adult? Let's have a check on the video.
If the person is choking severely, you have to act quickly. You can recognize severe choking by the universal sign of choking, which is clutching the neck by both hands. Also, if you are asking any question, the person won't be able to reply to your question. So you can see that he is clutching his neck. I need to ask him, are you choking? He is nodding his head to confirm. Now, if you have someone, ask the person to phone for emergency. You please call emergency. He is choking severely. I'm going to do abdominal thrust. Now, you have to offer your help to the person. I'm trained. I can help you. Now, you need to move behind the person. Stand on one side. You can locate the belly button. Make a fist. The thumb side of the fist you are going to keep between the belly button and the chest. You have to stand firmly because the person can become unconscious and he can fall on you at any point in time. So I can stay behind. I need to stand firmly. I have to keep the fist and make the person slightly bending forward. Now I have to push at the abdomen and it is actually going to thrust the diaphragm. I need to push hard until the thing comes out, or until emergency help arrives, or until the person becomes unresponsive. I have to do the abdominal thrust. Suppose the person become unresponsive, you have to hold the person and you have to walk behind, make the person lying down on the floor, and you have to initiate CPR. Suppose you have a baby who is choking severely, you have to act quickly. You can recognize severe choking in babies by bluish discoloration of the body, and also the baby won't be able to cry properly. You have to immediately take the baby. You have to hold the baby in a face down position. You can support the baby by your hand and you have to support the face by both sides of the cheek. You can support your hand on your thigh so that there will be good counter pressure. Now you're going to do 5 times back slaps by using heel of your hand between the shoulders. You have to keep the baby in a way that the head is lower to the body level. Use the heel of your hand between the shoulders. 5 times you are going to slap. And then you have to flip the baby to the other hand. Again you have to support against your thigh. You're going to use 2 fingers between the nipples. You're going to do 5 times chest thrust. Head. You have to continue this until help arrives, until the baby becomes unresponsive, or until the thing throws out. Suppose the baby becomes unresponsive, you have to immediately start giving CPR. Make sure someone phoning for help.
Now we are going to discuss about slightly frightening and embarrassing situation which can happen in some of the work situations like construction sector, that is external bleeding. Minor bleeding occurs from small cuts or scrapes. With all bleeding or injuries, your first action should be to identify 2 factors to guide your care: the amount of bleeding and the location of the bleeding. For minor cuts anywhere on the body, you have to wash the area with soap and water and then apply a dressing to the wound. Once the bleeding has stopped, you can apply an antibiotic cream or ointment if the person has no known allergies, and then an adhesive bandage. If the flow of the blood is continuous and steady, and if the volume of the loss appears large, about equal or to half to a 12-ounce can, you have to phone or ask someone else to phone for local emergency response system. You can call if there is a lot of bleeding or you cannot stop the bleeding, you see the signs of shock, you suspect a head, neck, or spine injury, you are not sure what to do. All these situations you have to immediately consider phone for help or ask someone else to phone the local emergency response system. Now let's discuss about the direct pressure and bandaging. A dressing is a clean material used directly on a wound to stop the bleeding. It can be a piece of gauze or any other clean piece of cloth. A bandage is a material used to protect or cover an injured body part. A bandage can also be used to help keep pressure on a wound. So in case of an external bleeding, a major bleeding, what actions we can consider? Let's have a check on the video now.
Suppose the person is profusely bleeding, there are high chances that there will be something dangerous things around. So you have to make sure you are safe. If you are safe, you can proceed. Oh, what happened? Help! Is there anyone to help? And now you can ask the person to apply pressure with the other hand. He can use the palm, apply the pressure. Apply the pressure with your palm. Okay, apply pressure. Ask him to press firmly against the wound. If there is, make sure there is no impaled object, like there is no glass pieces or other things impaled in the wound, and then apply pressure. And now you have to get the first aid box and you have to put on your gloves and take your needed things out from the first aid box. Good. Apply pressure. I'm here to help you. I'm trained on first aid. It's always safe to keep a sterile dressing first, and you can give the dressing to the person. Apply the pressure on top of the wound. And now you have to put on your gloves. Please call emergency. Get me the AED quickly. I'm putting on my gloves. Now I can take more dressing. Remove your hand. I can apply pressure with the heel of my hand until the bleeding stops. Perhaps after 5 minutes you can just have a check. 5 minutes over. Now I'm not going to remove the dressing. Instead I'm looking at the dressing. Is the blood spreading very fast, or there is the dressing gets soaked completely? I'm going to check at the dressing. And I can see that the blood is spreading, so I have to add more gauze. It's not recommended to remove the previous one and apply a new one. Instead, what you can do, you can add more gauze to it. Okay, so I can add more gauze. Again, I have to apply pressure, firm pressure. Now I can see that the bleeding stops. So I have to get the bandage. I have to apply the pressure bandage. For that, what you have to do, you can ask the person before that, are you feeling dizzy? If you're feeling dizzy, please lie down. Okay, I'll hold. Now I have to take the bandage. I can keep the roll on the upper side so that you will have a good grip on the bandage. I have to start wrapping it around. make sure there is adequate pressure, but it shouldn't compromise the blood circulation. So you can always make sure with a person if it is very tight or not. In order to keep the bandage in place, it's better to take it in a crisscross fashion. At least you should be able to slip one of your finger inside. That tightness is recommended. So now I can make a note for that. I can take it behind. I can take both ends together. I can tie it. You're okay, right? You have to make sure the person is breathing fine, he's okay, and now you have to make sure the tightness is okay and everything fine. Keep the extremity at the level of the chest, and so that it will make sure the bleeding is not getting worse. Now I have to stay with the person until ambulance comes. Tourniquets. Suppose you are unable to stop the bleeding with your pressure bandaging, you have to go for tourniquets. You can use a commercially available tourniquet from the first aid box, or you can make one. In order to make one, you have to take a bandage, which is not an elastic one, and then you have to apply a knot 7 to 8 centimeter above the wound. So you can put a single knot 7 to 8 centimeter above the wound. You're going to keep a sturdy thing just above that, and you are going to put another knot. Okay. So now you're going to use this as a windlass. You are going to twist it and make it tight. It might make a little bit pain to the person. However, you are trying here to stop the bleeding, which is life-threatening. So you can make sure it is tight until the bleeding stops. You have to always make sure you are keeping the knot like it is tight until the bleeding stops, and also you have to write the time, take note of the time. Make sure you call the emergency and you inform them you applied a tourniquet, so they will make the service system fast, and you have to make sure it's not compromising the blood circulation. You are finding that the color is turning bluish to gray, and then you can slightly loosen it up for 5 seconds, allow some blood to flow through, and again you have to make it tight. So you have to stay with the person, make sure the person is breathing fine. If the person stops breathing and the person is unresponsive, you have to immediately start the CPR and use the AED.
The climatic conditions of the UAE make us prone to get heat-related problems. Since it's a common condition, let's learn what we can do in heat-related emergencies. Heat-related problems usually progress in a continuum. It starts as dehydration, and then it will progress through heat cramps, heat exhaustion, and finally to stroke. Working, training, or playing in extreme heat can be dangerous. If a person doesn't take the proper care, exposure to extremely hot environments can lead to life-threatening medical conditions. Dehydration. It occurs when a person loses water or fluids through heat exposure. Too much exercises, illness, or decreased fluid intake can lead into dehydration. Unless it is addressed early, dehydration may lead to life-threatening medical conditions such as shock. Signs of dehydration. You all might have experienced dehydration. So what signs you would notice on a person? So usually weakness, thirst or dry mouth, dizziness, confusion, less urination than usual, and also urine color will change from light yellow to dark yellow or brownish color. Actions to take. If you suspect that a person is dehydrated, contact a healthcare provider right away. The best first aid for dehydration is prevention. Encourage everyone to drink enough to stay hydrated. Heat cramps. Heat cramps are painful muscle spasms, most often occurring in the calves, arms, stomach muscles, and back. When there is sweat or sweating happens, the electrolytes also can be lost from our body. So there will be diminished levels of electrolytes like sodium, potassium in our body, so that can cause muscular spasms. The signs of heat cramps are muscular cramps, sweating, headache, abdominal cramps. So what actions you can take in case of heat cramps? Have the person rest and cool off. Have a person drink something with electrolytes, such as sports drink or juice or water if these are available. If the person can tolerate it, apply a bag with ice or water wrapped in a towel to the cramping area for up to 20 minutes. So in case if the person is not getting better, and then you have to take the person to a healthcare provision area, such as to a hospital or clinic where the person can get the electrolyte supplements, or like the person can get IV fluids, so that electrolytes will be replenished, the person can get relief of the signs and symptoms. Heat exhaustion. A mild condition such as heat cramps can quickly turn into heat exhaustion. That's why it's important to recognize and give first aid for heat-related emergencies earlier. The signs of heat exhaustion are similar to that of heat stroke. Nausea, dizziness, vomiting, muscle cramps, feeling faint or fatigued, heavy sweating. Actions to take. Have the person lie down in a cool place. Remove as much as of the person's clothing as possible. Cool the person with a cool water spray. If a cool water spray is not available, place cool, damp cloth over the neck, armpits, or groin. If the person is responsive and can drink, have the person drink something with sugar and electrolytes, such as sports drink or juice or water, if these aren't available. Heat stroke. Heat stroke is a dangerous, life-threatening condition. So it's important to begin cooling a person who has heat stroke immediately. Within the minutes it occurs. Every minute counts. For heat stroke, you should try to immerse the person in cool water immediately. If you cannot immerse the person in water, try to cool them with cool water spray. If the person starts behaving normally again, stop cooling them. If you keep cooling the person, it can cause low body temperature. Signs of heat stroke are confusion, feeling faint or fatigued, dizziness, fainting, nausea, vomiting, muscle cramps, seizures. The person can become unresponsive. Actions to take. Phone your local emergency response number and get a first aid kit and AED, because the person can become unconscious or he may stop the breathing. Move the person from the hot environment. Remove any excess clothing he might be or she might be wearing, and remind them to limit their physical activity. Put the person in cool water up to their neck if possible, or spray them with cool water. If the person becomes unresponsive and not breathing normally or only gasping, give CPR. Thank you for your time to watch the video and learn first aid. Hope you have enjoyed it and you have learned some basic first aid skills. If you still feel like qualified in first aid, you can please check our contact details, and you may please visit our website www.gmu.ac.ae. Thank you for your time.